I watched my wife take her last breath as our children took their first. The doctor said she was gone, but 3 hours later, something happened in that hospital room that made every doctor freeze. What they discovered changed everything I thought I knew about life, death, and love. Stay until the end, because what the doctor found will shake you to your core. This isn't just a story about loss, it's about a miracle that medical science still can't fully explain. My name is Lawrence Whitmore, and I'm worth $4.7 billion. I know that sounds like something you'd brag about, but honestly, it means nothing compared to what I'm about to tell you. Money can buy the best hospitals, the best doctors, the finest care in the world, but it can't buy you one more second with the person you love. I learned that the hardest way possible. I built my fortune in real estate, luxury hotels and resorts mostly. When you stay at a Whitmore property in Paris or Dubai or the Mal d'Azad, you're paying for perfection. Every detail matters. Every moment is controlled. I lived my whole life believing that if you had enough money and enough control, nothing could go wrong. I was so stupidly wrong. I met Naomi Bennett at a charity gala. I was there because my publicist said I needed to look charitable. She was there because she actually cared. Naomi was a high school English teacher and a published author. She'd written 2 novels about growing up in Brooklyn, about her grandmother's stories, about finding beauty in struggle. When we were introduced, she looked at my tailored suit and my rehearsed smile and said, "So you write checks to feel better about yourself?" I should have been offended. Instead, I laughed for the first time in months. We talked for 3 hours that night. She challenged every shallow thing I said. She made me think about what my money actually meant, what I was actually doing with my life. I fell in love with her before dessert was served. Our romance wasn't what you'd expect. Naomi didn't want fancy restaurants or private jets. She wanted bookstores and long walks and real conversations. She made me read James Baldwin and Toni Morrison. She took me to her classroom and showed me kids who needed mentors, not money. 18 months after we met, I proposed to her in that same classroom, surrounded by her students. She said yes, and I became the luckiest man alive. When Naomi told me she was pregnant, I cried. Actually cried. Something I hadn't done since I was a kid. We were in our apartment, early morning light coming through the windows, and she just held up the test with this smile that could light up the world. I promised her right then that I'd step back from work. I'd be present. I'd be the father my dad never was to me. She believed me, and I meant every word. The pregnancy was beautiful. Naomi glowed. I'm not just saying that, she actually did. At our 20-week scan, the technician got quiet, and my heart stopped. Then she smiled and said, "Congratulations, you're having twins." Twins, a boy and a girl. We picked names that night, Elijah and Gianna. Naomi put her hand on her belly and whispered to them, told them how loved they already were. I'd never seen her happier. I hired the best obstetrician in New York. Manhattan Memorial Hospital reserved their finest private suite. We took classes, read books, prepared the nursery with 2 of everything. Naomi was healthy, the babies were healthy, every checkup was perfect. I actually thought we had it all figured out. I thought my money and planning had guaranteed us a happy ending. 3 weeks before her due date, Naomi woke me at 2 in the morning. "Lawrence," she said quietly, "it's time." Her contractions were already 5 minutes apart. We drove to Manhattan Memorial in my car because the ambulance felt too dramatic. I held her hand the whole way. She was nervous but excited. We both were. We had no idea we were driving toward the worst day of my life. Labor started normally. Naomi was strong, so strong. She squeezed my hand through contractions and made jokes between them. The nurses loved her. Dr. Foster, our obstetrician, checked in every hour. Everything was progressing well. 6 hours in, I actually relaxed. I thought we were almost there. Then, in one moment, everything changed. Naomi's blood pressure spiked. I saw it on the monitor before the nurses did. Numbers jumping, alarms beeping. Dr. Foster ran in, his face serious. "Eclampsia," he said. I didn't know what that meant, but I saw the fear in Naomi's eyes. They were wheeling her toward emergency surgery within minutes. She reached for my hand. "I'm scared," she whispered. I told her she'd be fine. I promised her. I lied to her. They performed the C-section fast. I was there in my surgical gown, standing by Naomi's head, stroking her hair. At 11:47 a.m., I heard crying. 2 cries. Elijah came first, then Gianna 90 seconds later. Both perfect, both healthy, both screaming with life. The nurses held them up so Naomi could see. She smiled, tears running down her face. "Our babies," she whispered. Those were almost her last words. The bleeding started immediately after. I saw the doctors' faces change. Suddenly, there were 12 people in the room, moving fast, shouting medical terms I didn't understand. Massive hemorrhage, uterine atony. They were losing her. I stood there, useless, watching my wife bleed out on a table while our newborn children cried in the corner. They called a code blue. I knew what that meant. I pushed past the nurse and grabbed Naomi's hand. Her eyes found mine, and she was so pale, so weak. "Promise me," she whispered, her voice barely there. "Promise me you'll love them enough for both of us." I was sobbing, telling her she'd be fine, begging her to stay. But her eyes closed, and the monitors went flat. And at 12:14 p.m., they called it. Naomi Bennett was gone. The silence after was unbearable. Nurses were crying. Dr. Foster had his head in his hands. Someone turned off the alarms. I stood there holding my dead wife's hand while our 6-minute-old children cried, needing a mother they'd never know. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My brain couldn't accept that she was just gone. Eventually, a nurse named Patricia gently led me to another room. She brought me Elijah and Gianna. I held them both, one in each arm, and they were so small, so perfect, so alive. And I felt nothing but emptiness. How could I be happy when Naomi wasn't there to see them? How could I love them when loving them meant accepting she was gone? I sat in that chair for an hour, holding my children, completely broken. I made the calls I had to make. Naomi's sister Gabriel, my mother, our friends. Every conversation was the same. "She didn't make it. The babies are fine. She's gone." I said it over and over until the words meant nothing. The hospital gave me a private room. They kept Naomi's body in the delivery room for the protocol they follow when someone dies suddenly. Investigation, autopsy consent, medical procedures that felt like insults to her memory. 3 hours passed. 3 hours of me sitting with Elijah and Gianna, trying to figure out how to be their father alone. Then Patricia, the same nurse who'd been so kind, burst through my door. Her face was white. Her hands were shaking. "Mr. Whitmore," she said, and her voice cracked. "You need to come to the delivery room right now." I was angry. I shouted at her. Why couldn't they just leave Naomi in peace? Why did they keep disturbing her? Patricia started crying. "Please," she begged, "just come." She moved. Those 2 words stopped my heart. She moved. That was impossible. Naomi had been dead for 3 hours. Dead people don't move. But Patricia wasn't lying. I could see that in her eyes. I ran down that corridor faster than I've ever run in my life. The delivery room was full of people. Doctors, nurses, administrators. Dr. Foster was standing by the door, and when he saw me, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. He pulled me aside, away from everyone else, and he was shaking. This man who delivered thousands of babies, who'd seen everything, was shaking. "Lawrence?" he said quietly. "I don't know how to tell you this." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "The twins you're holding aren't the only babies Naomi was carrying." I stared at him. I didn't understand. "What are you talking about?" "We had the scans. 2 babies. Elijah and Gianna. That's it." Dr. Foster shook his head. "Naomi has a rare condition called uterus didelphys. She has 2 separate uteruses. We delivered the twins from 1 uterus. But there are 2 more babies in the 2nd uterus. Still alive. Still growing." The world stopped making sense. 2 more babies? Inside my dead wife? That was impossible. That couldn't be real. But Dr. Foster took me to Naomi's body, and they did an ultrasound right there, and I saw it on the screen. 2 heartbeats, strong and steady. 2 more babies, moving, living, completely unaware that their mother's brain had stopped working 3 hours ago. I couldn't speak. I couldn't process it. Naomi was dead, brain dead, no activity at all. But her body was still functioning, kept alive by machines, and inside that body were 2 more of our children. The medical team explained that this condition, 2 uteruses, is incredibly rare. The pregnancy in both uteruses at the same time is almost unheard of. The fact that they didn't catch it on any scan was a catastrophic oversight, but none of that mattered now. What mattered was the decision I had to make. The hospital called an emergency ethics board meeting. Lawyers came, administrators came. They laid out the situation clinically. Naomi was legally and medically dead, but her body could be kept on life support. The babies in the 2nd uterus were at 28 weeks. If they kept her stable for 6 more weeks, those babies could survive. but it meant keeping my dead wife on machines, treating her body like an incubator. It meant delaying her funeral, delaying closure, delaying grief. Naomi's family arrived. Her sister Gabriel was devastated, but clear. Naomi would want those babies to live, she said. She'd want every one of her children to have a chance. I thought about Naomi's beliefs, her values. She'd always said every child deserves a fighting chance. She dedicated her life to giving chances to kids who needed them. I knew what she'd want me to do. Keep her stable, I told Dr. Foster. Save our babies. The next 6 weeks were the strangest of my life. I lived in that hospital. I cared for Elijah and Gianna in one room, while Naomi lay in another, machines breathing for her, keeping her heart beating, nourishing the babies inside her. I'd sit by her bed and talk to her, to them. I'd tell the unborn twins about their brother and sister. I'd read to all 4 of them from Naomi's books. The news leaked. The media went insane. Protesters came to the hospital, some supporting us, some calling it unethical. My phone rang constantly. I ignored all of it. My whole world was those hospital rooms and those 4 children. At week 34, Dr. Foster said the babies were developed enough. They scheduled the second C-section. It felt surreal, operating on someone who'd been dead for 47 days. But when they delivered those babies, another boy and another girl, and I heard them cry, it felt like Naomi had reached across death itself to give them life. We named them Caleb and Sienna. 4 children. 4 perfect, healthy, living children. With all 4 babies safe, there was no reason to keep Naomi on machines anymore. Her family came, my mother came. We gathered around her bed, and I held her hand one last time. "You did it, love," I whispered to her. "All 4 are here. You saved them all." They turned off the machines at 9:17 p.m. This time, when her heart stopped, it was real. This time, she was really gone. The funeral was 2 weeks later. Hundreds of people came. Her students, her readers, people whose lives she touched. I stood at the front holding Caleb, while Gabrielle held Sienna, while my mother managed Elijah and Gianna. 4 babies at their mother's funeral. People called it tragic. I called it proof of Naomi's strength. That was 2 years ago. I'm raising quadruplets as a single father. It's chaos. It's exhausting. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. I sold most of my hotels. I kept 3 and hired people I trust to run them. I'm home every night for dinner. I read Naomi's books to the kids before bed. Elijah has her eyes. Gianna has her smile. Caleb has her curiosity. Sienna has her stubbornness. I started the Naomi Bennett Foundation for Maternal Health. We fund research into rare conditions, support families who lose mothers in childbirth, and train doctors to catch what ours missed. Naomi's death saved lives. Her impossible survival saved 4 more. People ask me how I do it, how I manage 4 2-year-olds alone. The truth is, I'm not alone. Naomi's in every laugh, every milestone, every moment. She gave everything so they could live. The least I can do is make sure they know how much she loved them. Naomi gave everything so 4 lives could begin. Her story reminds us that love doesn't end with a heartbeat. It echoes through every breath our children take. Medical science still studies her case. Doctors still can't fully explain how those babies survived, or why her body held on just long enough. If this story moved you, share it. Let her sacrifice mean something to someone else facing the impossible. Subscribe for more untold stories that will change how you see the world, and drop a comment with your thoughts. I read every single one. And tonight, hold your loved ones tight. Tomorrow is never promised, but the love we give echoes forever.